Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, July 19th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Health officials are beginning to notice cases of COVID-19 rising, a trend that's likely due to the Delta variant, which is now the dominant strain. San Diego County just released the latest case numbers from Friday through Sunday, each day above 400. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman talked to experts who say the way to combat spread is simple: vaccinations.
Coronavirus cases are rising in California, and experts say the prevalence of the more contagious Delta variant is to blame.
Delta is really infectious, and it is a bigger problem. It's easier to catch and it's easier to transmit.
Infectious disease expert Shane Crotty at the La Jolla Institute for Immunology is one of the leading researchers on COVID-19. He says the good news is that the vaccines protect against the Delta variant.
At this point, you're either vaccinated or you're going to catch Delta variant. And if you're not vaccinated and you catch Delta, you're more likely to end up in the hospital than pretty much anything else you've caught in your life.
He says we simply need to get more people vaccinated, or Delta could bring back more restrictive measures meant to protect public health, like mandatory masking.
We don't currently have a high enough vaccination rate in California or in San Diego to stop Delta.
Even though the vaccines are still under emergency use authorization from the FDA, Crotty says all of the safety data is there and believes it's now just a matter of time before federal regulators give full authorization.
You know, a lot of people have been saying, hello, you should probably really pick up the pace on checking through the paperwork because we've got a pandemic going on. The safety data are fantastic. The protection data are fantastic. The inclusiveness of the vaccine trials was fantastic.
In San Diego, while hospitalizations are still relatively low and not at winter levels that nearly overwhelmed healthcare systems, they are rising. And with more cases coming in, that trend may continue.
Increased admissions, increased ICU admissions.
UC San Diego's Chief of Pulmonary and Critical Care, Dr. Jess Mandel, says nearly all of their current hospitalized COVID-19 patients are unvaccinated.
We're dealing with severe illnesses that in many cases are preventable, and it really is heartbreaking when you see folks who are incredibly sick, the trauma to themselves, to their families, and just think how much of this could have been prevented with vaccination.
Crotty says more and more evidence is coming in that shows just one dose of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine is not enough to protect against the Delta strain. And he says while still too early, the idea of booster shots is not out of the question just yet. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And a reminder, everyone 12 and older may be eligible for a COVID vaccine. For more information about vaccinations and where to get one, visit our website, kpbs.org. We've made it easy to find with a vaccines link right on our homepage. The American Academy of Pediatrics wants everyone over the age of 2 to be masked up this upcoming school year. The association says a universal masking policy would be safer and more effective than schools monitoring and enforcing rules for only the non-vaccinated. While that's at odds with the CDC's recommendation, this nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says he believes the group's recommendation is reasonable.
Have a degree of viral dynamics in the community, and you have a substantial proportion of the population that is unvaccinated, that you really want to go the extra step, the extra mile to make sure that there's not a lot of transmission, even breakthrough infections among vaccinated individuals. And for that reason, you can understand why the American Academy of Pediatrics might want to do that. They just want to be extra safe.
California is requiring masks in schools regardless of vaccination status, but it will be up to local districts to enforce the rule. California leaders are addressing the homelessness and housing crises throughout the state. KPBS reporter Melissa May shows us how Governor Newsom and San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria are taking on these related issues.
Today, Governor Gavin Newsom announced a $12 billion investment package addressing the homeless crisis in California. $3 billion of those dollars will focus on behavioral health housing and solutions to tent encampments. And it comes with strings attached and accountability requirements.
But there's 6 metrics that counties have to meet. And if you meet them, we're actually attaching bonuses, 18% bonus opportunity for actually delivering on the plan.
Newsom recognizes that this is a collective effort of the entire state. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria knows there is a homeless and housing crisis in our city.
We have 8,000 unsheltered people in this county, the most clearest expression of our housing crisis.
Mayor Todd Gloria's Homes for All of Us housing package aims to provide affordable housing for low-income families, but also for middle-class families as well.
Will be priced for middle-income San Diegans, folks that commonly cannot afford the luxury stuff that gets built really easily around here, but earn too much to qualify for the low-income stuff that is also available in the community.
Gloria said the city planning department is working on several initiatives. They include creating housing at city facilities and in underused commercial sites. The plans also call for better housing accessibility for the disabled and elderly, housing developments near public transit, and housing for families.
Anyone here with a family knows it is difficult to find housing that you can actually put your kids in, where they can have their own bedroom. That is not acceptable. We have to be a city that welcomes families. If we encourage and incentivize more homes of 3 units or more, 3 bedrooms or more, we can do that.
Lindsay Jakes is a third-year University of San Diego law student with a similar story to many of those who graduate from San Diego colleges and universities.
Unfortunately, the cost of housing in San Diego may prohibit me from staying here and working here after graduation.
Jakes wants to practice in the nonprofit sector, specifically focused on the environment, equity, and land use.
If I want to achieve my goals of working with the public to better a community, I need to be able to afford to live in that community. And the cost of housing and ability to grow wealth in San Diego makes that a greater challenge than in most cities.
During the past 5 years, San Diego has seen the largest increase ever in the construction of affordable housing, but the city needs to nearly triple annual housing production to meet the needs of its residents during the next decade. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Clean clothes can be hard to come by for those experiencing homelessness. Coming up on Evening Edition, how a local organization is working to change that. Father Joe Carroll, who became a local icon as an advocate for the homeless, will be honored in a public funeral mass tomorrow. The Catholic priest died last week at the age of 80 following a battle with diabetes. The service is scheduled to take place at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning at St. Rita's Catholic Church in Lincoln Park. Carroll was president and CEO of St. Vincent de Paul Village from 1982 until his retirement in 2011, after which the facility was renamed as Father Joe's Villages. President Biden is promising to appeal a federal judge's ruling ending deportation protections for young immigrants brought to the U.S. as children. The ruling bars anyone else from applying for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, also known as DACA. While the thousands of current enrollees can stay, attorney and DACA recipient Dulce Garcia says there's a backlog of renewals and some people have lost their jobs waiting. She says DACA was never a permanent solution.
It's not a path to citizenship, and all it does is provide for us a permit so that we can work and contribute, but we don't really have access to full benefits as a citizen would. And it's time that we have that.
Today, President Biden said including a pathway to citizenship in the upcoming budget bill could give the narrow Democratic majority in the Senate a way around the filibuster. But he said the Senate parliamentarian would have to decide if the measure can be included. The bipartisan infrastructure deal is on life support. A key Senate procedural vote looms this week on the more than $1 trillion bill. As Isabel Rosales reports, the vote is a stress test to determine whether both sides of the political aisle can work together to finalize a deal.
President Joe Biden touting America's economic recovery as it digs out of a pandemic-driven paralysis.
More than 3 million new jobs all told. That's the fastest growth, I'm told, at this point in any administration's history.
The U.S. is projected to hit growth rates not seen in decades.
6 months in, here's where we stand. Record growth, record job creation, workers getting hard-earned breaks.
A high-stakes legislative deadline looms Wednesday.
We should be united in one thing: passage of the bipartisan infrastructure framework, which we shook hands on.
The procedural vote aims to pressure negotiators to finalize a deal on infrastructure. Nationwide, there's growing concerns about inflation and how to pay for the massive bill. Lead GOP negotiators argue the bill is not ready for the Wednesday vote.
How can I vote for cloture when the bill isn't written? Unless you want program failure, unless Senator Schumer doesn't want this to happen, you need a little bit more time to get it right.
Well, we're still working on it. It's more important to get it right than to meet an arbitrary deadline, and we are still negotiating.
Inflation is at its highest point in 13 years. Biden insists his proposals are designed to increase the economy's productivity and would lead to lower prices over time.
I want to be clear. My administration understands that if we were to ever experience unchecked inflation over the long term, that would pose a real challenge to our economy.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
The Justice Department says detectives here in San Diego helped crack a global hacking case that targeted local companies and universities. 4 Chinese residents are now indicted for multiple counts of conspiracy. The FBI says 3 are direct employees of the Chinese government. They're accused of using front companies where hackers work to steal intellectual property on everything from aviation to research on infectious diseases.
The goal was simple: to find China's best hackers and recruit them to steal intellectual property for the benefit of China and its state-controlled companies.
The FBI says the crimes go back to 2011 and that some local companies and universities were targeted. The 4 people named in the indictment are still in China, which makes it unlikely that they will face trial here in the U.S. A scary scene at the Padres and Nationals game in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. The sound of gunshots outside the stadium sent players and fans scrambling for cover.
Your attention, please. We ask that you remain inside the stadium at this time.
And during the chaos, Padres players Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado were seen running into the stands to usher fans to safety in their dugout. Their actions have some calling them heroes now, and it brought out this emotional response from the team's manager.
I couldn't be any more proud to be a Padre, to be with the men in there. And obviously they're going out, they're thinking of their loved ones, and they're getting their families, and then it's just human nature. They're seeing fans and seeing people in panic. They did the right thing.
3 people were injured in the shooting outside the stadium.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, as COVID outbreaks spike amid widespread misinformation, we get the latest from Dr. Anthony Fauci. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Pacific Gas and Electric says its equipment may have been involved in sparking the Dixie Fire. PG&E equipment has repeatedly been linked to major wildfires, including a 2018 fire that devastated the town of Paradise and killed 85 people. The Dixie Fire is burning in the Sierra Nevada, not far from that town. It has grown to over 30,000 acres and is 15% contained. The fire is one of dozens burning across the West.
We're going to be talking about some nice and comfortable conditions near the coast thanks to marine layer, but further inland, The monsoon moisture is actually going to be bringing the possibility for some storms, mainly in the mountains and in the higher terrain. And that's also going to mean cooler temperatures for some out in the deserts and also again in the mountains. For tonight in the metro, temperatures falling off into the low 70s. We have some patchy clouds, perhaps a little bit of fog developing by the early morning hours. Oceanside getting down to 66 degrees. Again, San Diego, low 70s. Chula Vista getting down to 69. Borrego Springs, 84 degrees for you for that overnight low. Moving through the rest of tonight, again, you can notice some low-hanging cloud cover developing here as you're waking up early on your Tuesday morning, right near the coast. For the interior sections, though, it should be a mainly clear night. Escondido getting up to 88 degrees for your high tomorrow. Ramona, 94. El Cajon, 95 degrees. And the heat certainly on for some, but for others, it's actually going to be a little bit of a cool down here over the next couple of days. And that's because we are going to get this surge of monsoonal moisture. It's going to make its way here into Southern California, but we're going to be watching for the possibility of localized flash flooding, increased dry lightning fire risk, and some locally strong wind gusts as well. Near the coast, temperature is not changing a whole lot. We are going to cool off a little bit as we head towards the weekend from the low 80s Tuesday, Wednesday, back down into the mid 70s by the time we get to Saturday. Further inland, temperatures around the 90-degree mark for your Tuesday, upper 80s Wednesday, Thursday. By the time we get to Saturday, we're back down to about 80 degrees for that daytime high. In the mountains, we have that chance for a couple thunderstorms here Thursday, Saturday, thunderstorm chances with temperatures cooling off into the low 70s. And even in the desert, while we don't have a whole lot of chance for rain here, we do see the cooling trend from 111 on Tuesday into the low triple digits by Friday and Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
This week, leaders for the UC system are expected to vote to raise tuition prices indefinitely for each incoming class of students. And this fall, there will be a record number at UC San Diego. The university is just shy of 53,000 undergrad students for the upcoming academic year. If approved, the tuition hike would be about $500 more per student. In-state tuition is already close to $15,000 per year. Out-of-state costs are triple that amount. California is launching the nation's largest statewide free lunch program. Starting this fall, all 6.2 million public school students will have the option to eat school meals for free, regardless of their family's income. It's seen as a way to reduce the stigma of free meals at school. California approved its program last month thanks to an unexpected budget surplus. The developer of a giant solar project that would dwarf Jacumba Hot Springs has promised some cash to the community, but residents say it's not a good deal. iNews Source reporter Camille Von Canel explains.
The project would be San Diego County's largest solar facility and would be right next to town. The developer says the benefits to Jacumba are that two local organizations that have agreed to support the project will get $325,000 for a park and a museum exhibit. Jeffrey Osborne owns Jacumba's historic hotel and said that's not a good deal.
A few $100,000 can't replace the future and hope of our community and the devastating effect this is going to have on everybody here for generations to come.
He's part of a group pushing to cut the project in half and send backup power to Jacumba in case of SDG&E shutoffs. The developer has said no. Jeff Fallon, the solar project's leader, said the donations are about helping the community.
We always want to improve the community. We're going to be there for 35 years. We want to be a good neighbor.
The Board of Supervisors is set to decide whether to approve it in August. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source reporter Camille Von Canel.
iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. The official list of Governor Newsom's challengers in the recall election is out, but not without some controversy. 41 candidates are on the list, but conservative talk radio host Larry Elder is not one of them. State officials say it's because he submitted incomplete tax returns. Elder says he may sue to get on the ballot, and former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer made the list, but there is a dispute over whether he can be listed as the city's retired mayor. With the election coming up on September 14th, the San Diego County Registrar of Voters is preparing to mail out ballots. They're reminding everyone to check their voter registration status right now. You can do that online at sdvote.com. A special ceremony here in San Diego to honor the late Congressman and civil rights leader John Lewis. The USS John Lewis was christened Saturday, marking 1 year since his death.
For the United States of America, I christen thee John Lewis. May God bless this ship and all who sail in her.
This is the first ship in its class and will keep other vessels replenished with fuel and other supplies. Future oilers will be named for other prominent civil rights leaders, including Harvey Milk, Earl Warren, Lucy Stone, and Sojourner Truth. For many, doing the laundry is a dreaded chore, but for people who don't have access to a washer and a dryer, doing laundry does not come so easy. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne shows us a mobile laundry trailer free for people to use.
From the outside, this trailer looks like a plain old camper, but this trailer has been gutted and transformed. It gives people in need access to washers and dryers free of charge.
We create a mobile laundry program for washers, for dryers, bring it into the communities all day and have people just have the ability to just feel like you know, have that privilege of having free laundry. Yeah.
Oscarino Ortega is the organizer of Lived Experiences, a nonprofit organization providing services to low-income families in North County. He saw a need for access to laundry service.
And a lot of us don't have the ability or the privilege to have a washer and dryer at home. We have to go to a laundromat.
Ortega had the idea to bring laundry services to the communities he helps, but the project was easier said than done.
So the conversation started 6 months ago, and where do we start? Again, nobody's ever built one. So we originally thought I could just buy a trailer and buy washers and hook them up. It's not that easy.
Water and power hookups are needed for wherever the trailer goes. So Ortega has partnered with community organizations to bring the laundry trailer to people in need.
We're just really excited. So almost everything we do is based off of the conversations we have with people that come here who may be experiencing homelessness. So one of our guests here said, hey, you know what would really make this space better is if we had laundry.
Jordan Verdin, the owner of Humanity Showers, holds weekly service events for people in need. Showers, food, clothes, resources, and now laundry are being offered every Wednesday in Oceanside. Sergio Burguet and his family are regulars at the shower events. He got to use the laundry last week.
This is help for the entire family and for the people that come here, sometimes with scarce resources, but that's what's important to the community. This is an extra resource that no one was expecting. It's excellent. We all need a little help sometimes.
Dallas Stelmach is currently living on the streets and got to wash his clothes in the trailer.
You know, this is probably the most convenient thing that I've been able to encounter in a long time. I'm really happy to be a part of it.
The mobile laundry trailer will be taken to Oceanside and Carlsbad every week in collaboration with mobile shower events. But Ortega has plans to do more.
We want to build more. The dream is to take this to the communities, leave it there for a whole day and have people take advantage of it. Take it to Maricosta College, Palomar College, and have students who are suffering or are insecure money-wise or shelter-wise and have them take advantage of this system, of this services. So that's the whole goal. Not only homeless, but also low-income families and just anybody in general.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Here's a question. If you've got to be stuck at home, why not be stuck at home with a puppy? That's what a lot of people did during the COVID lockdowns when shelters were seeing record numbers of adoptions. But as Katie Nielsen reports from Oakland, now they're seeing the opposite.
Rocket Dog Rescue in Oakland has so many dogs right now, they've set up makeshift kennels in their lobby.
Just almost overnight, we just became like overly full. The shelters are overburdened.
Paley Boucher founded the rescue 20 years ago, and she says she's seeing record numbers of people wanting to surrender their dogs. She's getting dozens of emails and text message requests every day.
I've never had this many rehoming, ever.
She says two things are happening. Some people adopted dogs at the beginning of the lockdown, and now that they're going back to work or traveling, they don't want the responsibility of a dog. and others are simply dealing with the hardships caused by the pandemic.
60% of the rehoming applications that we're getting now are people that are being forced out of their homes, being evicted, or having to go care for an elderly parent, or move back in with a family member.
It's a trend playing out across the Bay Area. Contra Costa Animal Services says their owner surrenders are ticking up as well, with 23 in April, 32 in May, and 40 in June.
It's just horrible, I don't think that any of the rescues or shelters were prepared for this.
At the same time, she says they're seeing fewer people looking to adopt.
We'd go to a couple of adoption events and nobody would get it. Everybody would love the puppies, but they weren't getting adopted.
She says until the trends turn around, she and other rescue groups will do the best they can to make space for dogs needing a new home, even if that means keeping puppies in the lobby.
And here's another look at today's top stories. COVID cases are rising and health officials are blaming the Delta variant, which is now the dominant strain. In San Diego, hospitalizations are still relatively low and not at winter levels that nearly overwhelmed healthcare systems. But numbers are rising, and doctors say nearly all patients they're seeing are unvaccinated. And today, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria unveiled a plan to create more affordable housing. Gloria said the city planning department is working on several initiatives, including creating housing at city facilities and in underused commercial sites. The plans also call for better housing accessibility for the disabled and elderly, as well as developments near public transit. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation. Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.